Hello viewers. You don't know me, but I know you. I want to play a game. Already in your computer system is a virus that has already stolen all of your most personal and confidential files. They'll be released publicly unless you follow the instructions hidden somewhere in this episode of The Toy Shelf. Fail to watch until the end and suffer the consequences. Make your choice.
Hello everybody and welcome to a brand new episode of The Toy Shelf. I'm your host Mitch Live, and I collect body parts. And I also collect action figures. And today we are kicking off our Haunted Halloween special! Every week from now until October 31st, we are going to be reviewing a different Halloween-themed collection or figure. Starting with one of my favorite horror movie villains, Jigsaw. And he is, of course, from the movie Saw. Jigsaw is a terminal cancer patient and brilliant engineer who in his own mind becomes sort of a vigilante, helping people overcome their own personal flaws. Basically, when faced with his own mortality, he realizes how precious life is, and he decides if other people were to stare death in the face, that they would also gain a new appreciation for life and change their ways.
Some people are so ungrateful to be alive.
To do this, he plans some elaborate games, as he calls them. And each one of these games puts the target in a situation where if they follow the rules and play the game, they do have a chance of surviving. They call him Jigsaw because he likes to carve a puzzle piece into the flesh of his victims. But that's not where the movie gets its title from. The saw that they're referring to is not a jigsaw, it's a hacksaw. I really love this movie for the twists, the cleverness of the villain, and the whole psychology of it all. It's not just a guy who wants people to face their own mortality, to gain appreciation for life and change their behavior, but it also becomes sort of an experiment for him to see how far people are willing to go to stay alive.
How much blood will you shed to stay alive?
And the movie was well received by fans and critics alike. So well received, in fact, that it earned 6 sequels, a sprequel, and a spin-off slated for 2021. The movies eventually became all about shock value and over-the-top gore and questionable plot twists and just desperate attempts to tie it into all the previous movies. They were just pumping these out every Halloween and they went downhill pretty fast. This figure is labeled Jigsaw with Billy Puppet. But I've seen this movie a few times. And that's not Jigsaw. There are actually a couple figures by NECA Toys that are also labeled Jigsaw with Billy Puppet. There's one where he's wearing the pig mask and a black cloak, which you actually see him wearing in the movie, the cloak. And then there's another one where he's wearing the cloak and he's wearing no mask and you can see his face and he looks like the character John Kramer. That's the killer. That's Jigsaw. Jigsaw never actually wears the pig mask. The person who wears the pig mask is one of the victims who he blackmails into kidnapping another victim. Victims being crucially involved in future games is a reoccurring theme throughout the franchise. And I guess that means his methods are pretty effective if even his victims want to join in after. And the pig mask doesn't even get that much screen time, but it does make a lasting impression. I think maybe he wears the mask for like a minute in the 2017 movie Jigsaw. But this figure definitely was made before that. Not Jigsaw. I got a pretty good deal on this figure. I found it at a toy show somewhere, but it was really the Billy Puppet here that sold me on it. This face. This is the face that you associate with this movie franchise. And there are dozens and dozens of Billy Puppet figures, dolls, and replicas. His tricycle is also a great detail. He's not always on the trike, but those scenes where he just slowly creeps in on the tricycle, just bone chillin'. Jigsaw and the Billy Puppet here are one of the very few horror villains to come out post-2000s that actually became, pretty iconic and recognizable and spawned entire franchises. They've earned their place on my shelf amongst some of the other most classic horror villains. And which one of these classic horror figures will we be looking at next week? Well, if I were to tell you, it would give you nightmares. That was a hint. And this brings us to the end of another episode of The Toy Shelf. Tune in next week for part 2 of our Haunted Halloween special. Comment below if you think you figured out who we're going to be reviewing next week. As always, there will be links in the description below that you can follow to purchase your own Jigsaw and Billy Puppet. And we'll also throw up links to some of the other Jigsaw figures that we mentioned in this episode. Thank you for hanging out with us on the Toy Shelf, and remember, you're never too old to play with toys.
Hello, viewers. Congratulations. If you've made it to the end, you followed the rules. All you need to do is like and subscribe, and you win the game. Because you're never too old to play a game.
And which one of those classic horror villains will we be And which one of those classic horror movie villains will we be looking at? Will we? Will we?